What if I tell you that there is a secret family that owns all of Europe? A family that is so powerful that they control all the major banks, industrialists, politicians, bureaucrats, diplomats, and even military officials in Europe. In 2023, this family's net worth was $700 billion, which is far more than the combined net worth of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Mukesh Ambani, and even Gautam Adani. From the White House to the World Economic Forum and even the United Nations, this family's influence is everywhere. Despite having so much wealth, power, and influence, you might not even know their name. Even if you check Forbes' top billionaires list, you won't find the name of a single member of this family. And the reason is simple. This family doesn't want anyone to know about them. That's why you will never see them on TV, in magazines, or at any public conference. This is the Wallenberg family, Europe's most powerful and wealthiest family. But how did this family become so rich and powerful? What's their secret? And who made them so powerful? Let's find the answers to all these questions in this video. In 1837, a financial crisis struck America, known as the Panic of 1837. It was the biggest financial crisis of the 19th century. The real estate bubble busted, cotton prices collapsed, inflation skyrocketed, banks ran out of money, and businesses started to fail, leading to peak unemployment levels. This entire crisis was nothing less than a nightmare for American bankers at the time. But for a Swedish Navy officer, this crisis was a huge lesson. The name of that Navy officer was André Oskar Wallenberg. When the financial crisis of 1837 hit, André was in America, working as a lieutenant in the Swedish Navy. He carefully watched the crisis unfold and realized that it was caused by careless and irresponsible American bankers. This taught André an important lesson: what kind of mistakes banks should avoid. He also noticed that banks in his own country, Sweden, were missing out on a huge opportunity. At that time, Swedish banks were still working in an old-fashioned way. Moving money from one place to another was very difficult. Interest rates were extremely low, and the biggest issue, banks didn't give loans to individuals or businesses. Basically, banks were acting more like safes or storage lockers than real financial institutions. All of this was happening while Sweden was rapidly industrializing. Big companies were being built, the economy was growing fast, and new railroads were being laid. But because banks weren't giving out loans, they were losing out on all these chances. Banks are incredibly powerful institutions. In fact, today, America controls much of the world through its banks, and this power comes from the way banks work their business model. So, how exactly do banks make money? Let me break it down in the simplest way. Banks take the money you deposit and then give it to someone else, maybe a person or a business, as a loan. They charge interest on that loan, and that's where their profit comes from. Let's say there are two people, me and my friend Ali. I deposit 1,000 rupees in a savings account, and the bank gives me 5% interest on it. The bank then lends the same 1,000 rupees to Ali, but charges him 10% interest. So now, the bank is earning 5% profit, the difference between what it pays me and what it earns from Ali. That's just the basic idea of banking. But banks also invest your money in real estate, businesses, and the stock market to earn even more profit. Still, they only give you that same 5% return. Back then, Swedish banks were offering very few loans and were mostly just places where people stored their money. Because of that, they were missing out on a huge chance to make profits. André Wallenberg saw that opportunity. In 1856, he opened his own bank in Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. He called it Stockholm's Enskilda Bank, or SEB for short. 200 years ago, opening a bank wasn't as difficult as it is today. Now, there are so many rules and capital requirements that a regular person can't even think about starting one. But in the 1800s, opening a bank was almost as easy as opening a jewelry shop. SEB was the first bank in Sweden to offer people the chance to earn interest on their savings. This was a totally new idea for most Swedes, who saw banks only as a place to keep their money safe, like a locker or a vault. But now people were earning profit on their savings. SEB became a huge hit. Crowds started lining up and people brought in their lifelong savings to deposit. At the same time, Sweden was going through an industrial boom. So many businessmen started coming to SEB asking for loans. Wallenberg on one side was collecting savings from everyday people. On the other, he was giving those same savings as loans to big industrialists at high interest. In just a few years, SEB expanded all across Sweden. Almost everyone in the country was connected to SEB in some way. Either your money was in SEB, or you were paying off a loan from SEB, or you were working at a company that took loans from SEB. In short, SEB had control over the entire Swedish economy. But the Wallenberg family didn't stop there. They wanted more power and more money, so they thought, why not use this money to buy Sweden's biggest companies? That's when the Wallenbergs started investing in everything: railways, factories, ports, newspapers, and real estate. There was barely an industry left in Sweden where the Wallenbergs didn't own shares. They now controlled Sweden's money, its companies, and even its people. And soon they were ready to expand beyond Sweden to Europe and eventually the whole world. Seeing their growing power, the Swedish government stepped in. In 1916, they passed a law: banks could no longer own long-term shares in companies. This was a big blow to the Wallenbergs, but they found a way out. They created a new company called Investor AB, and they transferred all of SEB's company shares to this new firm. In just 20 years, Investor AB became so powerful that 40% of all Swedes worked for companies it owned. Then came World War II, and this is the part you really need to listen to carefully. World War II had two sides: the Allies, Britain, America, the Soviet Union, France, and the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, Japan. Both sides hated each other. They were so brainwashed that no one was ready to talk, just fight until the other side was completely destroyed. Millions of people died, but while the world was burning, the Wallenbergs were calculating which side will make us more profit. And just like the Rothschilds had done before, the Wallenbergs made deals with both sides. They gave huge loans to America and Britain, and secretly started buying shares in German weapons companies, making sure Germany's weapons supply never ran out. This wasn't charity, it was all about profit. They signed secret deals with all three sides. Germany promised SEB could open branches in Germany for free after the war, and SEB would manage Germany's post-war development funds. America and Britain also agreed to give SEB special privileges. Always remember this: a businessman never makes a deal that brings loss. And war? War is the biggest business in the world. It's an industry, and the people who run it don't want peace. In the Afghanistan war, 10 Americans became billionaires. In the Russia-Ukraine war, leaked reports show the war is being dragged out, because billions are being made behind the scenes. If you think India and Pakistan's tension is about religion or ideology, you're wrong. Both spend billions on defense. The people selling weapons to them, do you think they want peace? Of course not. No war means no sales, and that's why people are fooled, turned into enemies. They're brainwashed through movies, news, and school books. Meanwhile, the rich get richer and the poor stay poor. This is exactly what the Wallenbergs did in World War II, and they're still doing it today. In 2014, when Russia attacked Ukraine and Europe placed heavy sanctions, two Wallenberg-owned companies, Atlas Copco and SKF, still sold Russia equipment for its nuclear programs. Now you might ask, most rich families don't last more than 3 generations, so how is the Wallenberg family still powerful after 100 years? They found a solution. Instead of giving all the money to 1 or 2 heirs, they placed their wealth into a family foundation. This foundation is managed by different family members. Each one runs a different company. That way, no single person can ruin the whole empire. Another rule they follow: if a family member is given a company to manage, they first have to work at lower levels for 8 to 10 years. They must prove they understand the business before taking charge. This is what made the Wallenbergs last. This is what the Vanderbilt family failed to do. The Vanderbilts were the richest family in the world in the 1800s. Today, no one even hears their name. In 1973, when the Vanderbilt family had a reunion, not a single person there was a millionaire. Wealth, power, money. These are dangerous things. In this video, we showed you just a few examples. History has proved one thing: humans are selfish. So selfish that if they can profit from someone's death, they won't stop. If you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and tell us what you think in the comments. Here are all the sources we consulted for this video. See you in the next video with another interesting topic. Take care.